So next we are going to measure these upper bodies from one end to the other end. We'll be needing that measurement for the lower part of the dress. So measuring all the way to this end, now we have 26 inches. So we're going to write that measurement down somewhere and then move on to the other calculations. So 26 for the entire round of the lower measurement. Please ignore that 28. 26 is what we had, what I measured for the round measurement. So what we're going to do now is to subtract the length. The length of the dress is 20. So we're going to remove the half length from the length of the dress. So 20 is the length of the dress minus half length, which is 7.5. So we're going to be left with 12.5. So the lower part of this dress is going to be 12.5 inches. So this 12.5, now we are going to add extra 1 inch to it for allowance, which is going to give us 13.5. Now we have about 4 layers of fabric underneath on the lower part. One is the net. So for the net fabric, now we are going to make it 14 inches of length. Just round up that 13.5, just make it 14. That's also the longest. Then we're going to have satin underneath the net, which we are going to make it 13 inches, 1 inch less than net fabric. We're also going to be having lining. So the lining is also going to be 1 inch less than the satin piece. So 12 inches for the lining. Then we also have hard net. So the hard net is going to be 2 inches shorter than the lining. So we're going to have 10 inches length of the hard net. Okay, so this is the hard net. Now I have the width I have here is 2 yards, so it's 2 yards wide. So we're going to be cutting 10 inches for the length. Now the 10 inches is going to give us 2 yards. We need more than that, so we're going to cut 10 inches twice based on the material that we have. So you can make your hard net twice the width of your lining or thrice the width of your lining. It can be 4 times wider than your lining or 3 times wider than your lining. It cannot be the same as your lining. It's not possible. So here now I'm going to mark out 10. I folded the 2 yards into this small rectangle, and then we're going to mark out 10 inches. After that, we'll mark out another 10 inches. Now if you are working with let's say 1 yard of net, for example, right, you can just cut out this 10 as many times as you can get from 60 and then join all of them together by the width. That way you have 10 inches length of very wide fabric. So I have 2 yards of width here. Now I'm cutting 2, so I'm going to join them together, and this will now give me 10 inches by 4 yards. So you can have way more than that. And also the net can be in layers. It doesn't have to be just one layer, so you can have way more than this, but I will explain as we go. So next, now I'm going to place the nets together and just join. This net comes in white and black color, so you can actually buy white. It doesn't have to be black. So we're going to join it now, so we have one long piece. Now for the satin and the lining piece, I have this doll face here now folded into as many pieces as possible by the width. So the side where the yardage is measured, that is where I folded. So from there now we are going to mark out the 13 inches that we'll be using for the satin, and then the 12 inches that we'll be using as the lining. So one thing you can do, again, quick tip, you can actually do this calculation and then cut out these two pieces first off the satin piece before you can start cutting out the upper bodies and the rest. So I've marked the 13 now. We're going to cut that out. This factory edge is not needed, so we're going to trim that off of the material. So I cut out 13 inches, then go back again and cut 12. So one for the satin, the other as the lining. So for the lining, we calculated 12 inches, so we're going to measure the 12. So place my tape, mark 12, go to the other end again and mark 12. Use a ruler to connect and then cut out. So the width of this satin is 2 yards, like I said. So it's going to be 2 yards wide for the main fabric, 2 yards wide for the lining. So for the neck now, the 5 yards, we are going to fold back and forth, making sure it's equal at the edge. Just keep folding, fold the half yards until we come to a very small fold. So the side we are folding is the 5 yards part of the net. You're going to fold, making sure that everything is sitting nicely. You're going to blow it so that everything is smooth and straight until it comes to this very tiny rectangle, and then we can cut from there. So once everything is smooth, now we are going to go now and cut 14 inches. Remember, from our calculation, what we are going to be cutting for the net is 14 inches. So we're going to cut this 14 now. Net is by 60 inches, so we're going to cut 14 as many times as we can get from this 60 inches. So when it comes to ball dresses, how you get the fullness is in the layers. So as many layers as you have, as many as 8 layers. A lot of designers will tell you that 8 layers is the minimum for a ball gown. If what you are making, you are calling it a ball gown, then the layers of nets that you will have must be up to 8. For me, I would say anywhere from 4 to 8, nothing less than 4 layers. So let's say you're making a full length gown for a 1-year-old now. So in order to get as many layers as possible from that 10 yards, you divide it into 2. So maybe buy 5 yards and then buy 5 yards again. So by 60, the first 5 yards will give you like 3 layers. The second 5 yards will give you another 3 layers. So all in all, you have like 6 layers, which is not up to 8, but more than 4. That way you get the boldness of the dress as possible. So all in all, it is the layers. So if you're making for, let's say, a 6-year-old now, for example, you may only get 2 layers from a by 60 net. So if you're going to use 16 yards for a 6-year-old, you buy 8 and another 8. So 8 yards will give you 2 layers, another 8 yards will give you 2 layers, which is not enough. So what you do is probably maybe buy 5 yards, or buy 6 yards and then another 6 yards and then another 6 yards. So each of these 6 yards will give you two layers each, which will give you 6 layers at the end of the day, which is still reasonable. But if you want it up to 8, then maybe you buy another 6 yards. So imagine 6 plus 6, that's 12, plus another 6, that is 18, and then you get it. So the more the layers, the fuller the ballness of the gown. So in this case, we are making a knee-length dress with 5 yards. These 5 yards give us 4 layers of the net. So this is the 4th one. Now we've got one 14 inches, another 14, and then another 14. So if you're making a full length gown for a 1-year-old, 10 yards is enough. Divide it into 2, that way you get about 6 layers and you're good to go. So this is layer 2, this is 3, this is 4. Now we also have another 2 yards that is still pending, which will also give us another, but you'll see in a bit. All in all, we had 5 layers at the end of the day still, but let's see. This is the 2 yards. So we're going to fold it again by the yardage until it is small enough for us to handle. So fold. Remember, we are making a tiered skirt, so the lower part is going to have a tier to it. So that is why we have these 2 yards separate. So in order to get the tier, we are going to divide the 14 inches we have into 2, which is going to give us 7. So that 7, we are going to have one, the upper part, we are going to add half inch to that for allowance. And then the lower 7, we are going to double it and make it 14. So 7.5 and then 14 inches for the down. So what we are going to do now is cut 7, the 7.5, which is going to be the upper part of the tier aspect. So we're going to cut 7.5 twice on these 2 yards. So 7.5 by 2 yards, another 7.5 by 2 yards. So we'll join them together. That will give us 4 yards. So for the bottom part, it has to be 3 times or 4 times more than the upper part. So that 14 inches we have for the remaining half of this layer, we are going to use one of the 4 layers we cut before, 14 inches, one of them, and then the remaining part of these 2 yards we are going to also cut 14, and then join it together with the other 14 that we have. That way we will now have 11 yards. So we'll add 11 yards to 4 yards, which is fair enough. So this is the 7.5 inches. We are going to join them. We'll join them using a French seam. You can just join, because net actually does not have threads. It doesn't bring out threads. It doesn't fray. So just ensure that the trimming is neat and then the stitch is also neat. That is all. So I've sewn first. I'm going to trim off a bit of the excess and then turn it back again. Turn it to the other side and sew. That way the seam allowances are in between. This is called a French seam. So after joining these 4 yards now, that is 7.5 inches long, we are going to keep it aside. First, we'll be needing it later. So the remaining from these 2 yards now, like I said, we are going to measure 14 inches as many times as we can get. This gave us 3 layers. So we are going to measure 14 inches, cut, measure another 14 inches and cut again, and then measure another 14. So after cutting these 14 inches, we have about 3 layers from these 2 yards. So we're going to join the 3 layers together to get one long 6 yards, and then we'll join the 6 yards to one of the sets, the 5 yards we got. One of them will join these 6 yards to it, which will give us 11 yards. We'll use that 11 yards for the bottom tier, of the last layer, and you will see. Also, we're going to be using the same fringe seam to finish this seams, just like we did with the shorter one. After joining all the pieces together, you will now fold into two like this. So on fold now, we're going to have 7 inches. So you go iron this so that we get that crease. We need that midpoint for later. So iron will give it a crease. If you're ironing, please be careful so you don't burn the net. You know it's very soft.